Hi there, my name is Becca Jones. Thank you for renting our 2022 Thor 4 Winds motorhome for your trip. In this short video, I'm going to go over the exterior and the interior components of the Thor 4 Winds to hopefully make your trip a little bit easier and answer any questions that might come up. So let's start outside. Before your trip begins, I will do a pre-trip checklist where I'll take pictures of the whole exterior of the RV and note any damage that's existing before your reservation so that you have the information about your particular reservation and if there are any changes or anything happens while you're on the road. So here is the RV, and I'm going to start at the front and just show you a couple of areas that we already know about on this RV where we've had a little bit of damage from some previous trips. The main thing is that we had a renter hit a road hazard that they couldn't avoid, and it kicked up underneath and it broke off a piece of the siding. This doesn't really affect the functionality of the RV, but because there isn't anything now for the step to attach to, sometimes that feels a little bit loose. So my suggestion is to step up into the RV. You can step on that, it's okay, but it will feel a little bit loose to you. Continuing our tour around the RV, I'm on the driver's side now, and right under here in this component is the generator. You shouldn't have to do anything with the generator during your trip, but that's where it is just in case something comes up. This hatch here, this is the exterior area where you fill the propane. If you do need to fill the propane while you are traveling, you'll pull up to any place that fills propane tanks, and they will have you pull up on this side, so the driver's side, and they will fill the propane right from here. Federal law requires that there are no locks on the propane tank section. There are some additional areas here for exhaust that you shouldn't have to do anything with. The RV, as of May 2025, has 6 brand new tires on it, so you shouldn't have any issues with tires. Also on the driver's side, when you're at a campground, this is where you will plug in to the campsite. A 30 amp campsite is usually what's there. This is for a cable line. If your RV site has one of those, some campgrounds have them. It's for TV and things like that. But there will be a cable. I'll show you where that is in the storage area. And this is where it plugs in, and then you'll plug it into the electrical stand at the RV campground that you're staying at. Also on the driver's side is where you'll fill up with gas. It's towards the back side of the unit. It's important that you don't over tighten or under tighten this, or you will get a check fuel inlet error on the dashboard inside. So sometimes people click this more than it needs to be, and then you can end up with that error. If you get it, just check to make sure that has been tightened, and you should be good to go. Also on the driver's side, this is where you connect your sewer when you are at a campground. This will give you a little spot here to hold that door open, the clip, and this is where your sewer connection is. So you can see the cap here. You'll pull the hose out. I'll show you where that is, and you will connect it. The most important thing is that you're going to want to make sure that these handles, right, this black handle here, and I'll show you the one on the other side, are pushed all the way in before you take this cap off to connect your sewer line when you get to your campsite. Once you are connected, then you're going to open these valves, and that's what's going to let the water flow through when you flush the toilet or when you're using the sink or things like that. So here is where you will hook up the sewer hose. I will show you where that is stored. The sewer hose is stored in this bumper section on the back of the RV. You'll pull the cap off, and that is where the hose will be. You can see right there, the connector matches up. Now, when you're putting this away, you want to make sure that the cap on the other end is off as well. Otherwise, you're kind of creating a vacuum as you try to accordion push that hose back in, and you won't be able to get it in, and you'll feel very frustrated. So this is where your sewer hose is. You pull it out, you attach it right there where the black water tank is and the gray water tank is. You'll hook it up. The connections fit together like a puzzle piece, and then you'll put it into the sewer or the dumping station, wherever you happen to be. These are 3 very important water valves, also on the driver's side. This one here is for a city water connection, just as it says. This is where you will hook up to the city water when you are at a campground. So we have a hose. I'll show you where those are. You'll hook that up to the spigot at the city water site or at your campground site, and that goes in here. This inlet here is for you to fill the fresh water holding tank. You'll need to have some water in the freshwater holding tank in order to flush the toilets and use the sink while you are traveling. When you are at a campground and hooked up to their water connections, then it doesn't really matter if the holding tank is full or not, because you're hooked up to city water with a hose that'll be turned on. You have to be careful with pressure. Don't turn it up all the way when you're on a city water connection. But this tank filler here, this is for your holding tank. So if you're planning to use the toilet while you're driving, you need to make sure that you have some water in this. I personally don't like to have the holding tank full of water when I'm traveling, because it adds to the weight of the RV. So I will fill it up when we stop along the way. You'll want to make sure that you have, maybe 10 gallons in there for travel so you can flush the toilet. This Santee flush valve, this is to flush out the black water tank. You want to make sure that the valves that we talked about before down here are open, and that there is a hose connected to this connector right here, the waste hose, and you can run water through this Santee flush valve in order to flush out the black tank. So you'll do that when you empty the black tank. Then you can use the hose. I'll show you the specifically marked hose. You can put it into this here, and that will flush out the black holding tank. The black tank holds, of course, waste from the toilet, and it will also hold things like gray water from the shower or the sink if you're washing dishes. You want to make sure that you flush out that black tank when you empty it, but make sure that the valve down there is open. This storage compartment on the back is large, and it goes all the way through to the other side. We have lots of various things in here that you are welcome to use when you rent the RV. We obviously have a couple of coolers. There's a stand-up paddleboard in here. There's a raft. There's a solo smokeless stove. I'll show you that, and a few other things. Right here is the electrical connector for when you plug in at a campground. It's important that you make sure that all of these exterior cabinets are locked when they're not in use or before you take off in the RV. Please make sure that all of those are locked. We do have a bike rack on the back of this camper that is large enough to hold an e-bike, an electric bike. And so if that's something that you would like to use, please let us know ahead of time so we can show you how to load bikes onto it. I've moved around to the passenger side, and this is the other side of that very large storage area. This is the solo stove that we have. There's a pop-up, there's a rug, there's extra toilet paper, there's a toolbox and a first aid kit and things like that, all in this very large area back here. On the other side, you'll find the bag that has the various hoses in it. One for city water connection, one for black water connection, like when you want to rinse that tank out, and one for potable water. Along the passenger side here, there aren't too many other storage areas. The awning is on this side, on the passenger side, and I will show you how to access that. And then there is one more storage area. This storage area contains an outdoor rug and some folding chairs, and also a portable charger generator that can sometimes be important if you needed that. We haven't needed it, we just keep it in there for extra. And please just make sure everything is always locked up before you leave or anytime you're leaving the camper. So let's go ahead and head inside the camper and we'll show you some of the stuff in there. There are 2 different locks on the front door. There are no push button locks on the camper. That's important to remember. So you need to make sure that you have your keys with you when you are doing anything with the camper. And when you leave the camper, you will use the smaller black key to make sure that both the top and the bottom locks are locked. So this black key opens the side door to the camper, which is on the passenger side. And then this key is the ignition key and also the 2 front door keys. And the white key opens everything along all the side storage compartments. So let's go ahead and unlock the camper and take you inside. I'm gonna use this to hold the door open, this latch. That way, if there's any wind, it doesn't grab the door and break it or bend it backwards. So you could make sure you do that as well. So when you come in to the left on the RV, there's some important things. The first thing that's important to know is before you take off driving, you need to turn the battery. This is the switch for the battery, and you need to turn it into the on position. Once you've turned the battery on, you'll hear some beeping as things start to turn on in the RV that are controlled by the battery. But the reason that this needs to be on when you first step into the RV and before you get ready to drive is that this battery actually runs the screen up front that has like your radio in it and that has the backup camera and things like that. So make sure that the battery is in the on position. When the RV engine is running, it will not be draining this battery because it'll be on secondary battery from when the rig is actually running. But when you are stopped for the night and you are plugged in at, say, a campground, you want to go ahead and turn that battery off just to save it, and it will turn off the screen up front. There's some switches here that are important. That's more things turning on with the battery. So this one turns on some interior lights as you come into the RV. This one turns on a stair light. This one's going to turn on some exterior lights for you on the outside of the RV. And this one does that as well. This one turns on some lights that are below, kind of on the ground. And this button is for the awning. So I'm going to go ahead and push it, and I'll show you how it comes out, in and out. Just like that. It's very, very important with the awning that if it is windy, that you please don't leave it out. Awnings can get torn and broken quite easily. And of course, please push the button several times and make sure that the awning is all the way in before you start traveling. So I'm going to turn off these 2 light switches, which were for the exterior lights, but I'm going to leave these on for now while we do the interior tour. When you come into the RV, you'll notice right in front of you, there's a control panel. And this is a pretty important control panel. It's gonna give you all of the things that you need to run when you are in the RV. So the first thing to be able to check are these buttons along here. This is going to tell you what levels, you'll see those up here. Each of these components of the RV, what level it's at. So LPG is the gas tank or the propane tank. So we'll push that, and you can see that it's 2/3 full currently, which should be plenty unless you plan on doing a ton of cooking on the small stove. This is the battery level that's at the floor. Now sometimes this will show empty. That's the battery that was running the front screen and everything. But once you turn the engine on, that battery will start to charge again. This is your freshwater tank. Right now it is showing 2/3 full, which should be plenty for any sort of bathroom use while you're traveling, while you're on the road. That's plenty to flush toilets. The black tank is showing full currently, which means that the tank needs to be emptied. It has about another 1/3 of the tank full. And gray water is that sink water and bathtub water and things like that. And that gray tank is currently showing empty. Now sometimes these sensors in the RV, they'll show something that they're not. Unfortunately, sometimes the sensors don't read correctly, or can go faulty. So if you've just emptied the black tank and it's still showing that there's something in it, then you know that maybe the sensor is dirty or it's more submerged than we would like it to be. This is the button for the generator. There is 4 hours per day of generator use included in your rental. So it's best if you don't have to use the generator. It's best if you can go to campgrounds and be plugged in. But if you have to use the generator, this is where you'll turn it on. The generator does run off of gas, and it uses the gas that is in the tank from the indicator up front on the driver panel, just like a regular car. So obviously if you're running the generator a lot, it's going to be using gas from that tank. So you have to keep an eye on that. If you need to turn the generator on, you just hold down the start button. You'll hear it start to kind of wind up. The lights and everything inside will flicker, and you just hold it until you hear it turn over. So I think you could probably hear that. That means that the generator is currently running. The generator needs to run for about 5 minutes before you start turning on any sort of major appliances like the air conditioning or anything like that. It's best for the microwave to be run only when you are hooked up to power, to that 30 amp power. Think of it just like at home. The generator really should just sort of be emergency backup for you. We'll go ahead and turn that off. When the generator is on, the battery by the front door does not need to be on. Okay? The next important thing that you have in here is your water pump. The water pump must be on in order for you to flush the toilet or run water. So you can turn it on here. It's a very quiet sort of pump, but the number or the pump light will be on if the pump is running and then there's water in the system. The pump does have to be on for you to flush the toilet. So I don't like to leave the pump running all night. You should turn the water pump off, at night when you're parked, and just turn it on when you need to be running water in the sink right there, or flushing the toilet or taking a shower. This is for the water heater that is run off of propane. So that has to be on, and you'll have an indicator here that it's on. And that has to be on in order for the gas to be flowing through the system and for you to turn on things like the stove or to heat water so that you can take a shower. So let's take a look at the first bedding area, which is at the front of the camper. Up here we have what we call our crow's nest area, and this can sleep 1 or 2 people. There are some extra blankets and things up here. There is a TV up here which has a swing out arm. You can pull the TV out if you want to watch it, say from the dining room. area or the couch area, you can swing the TV out and position it as needed. Now, this works when you're on Wi-Fi, and it is just like sort of the streaming services that you have at home. Once you are hooked up to power at a campground, you can turn the TVs on. You can log in to your favorite streaming services. If there's Wi-Fi, many campgrounds now have Wi-Fi, or if you have a hotspot that you travel with, or if your phone has a good enough hotspot, you can connect, obviously, the TVs to that and you'll have streaming services. There's one TV here in the front and there's another one in the bedroom in the back, and they both function the same way. But here's the remote for that. That lives in the little cupboard up here, right next to the crow's nest. So this is what they call a jackknife bed. To turn it into a bed, you just lift up on the bottom. There is a little bit of storage in there. I have some extra sheets and things like that. There's the seat belts. If you want to pull those out, you're welcome to. But to make this into a bed, you just pull it up and then you push down on the whole thing, and that can turn into one bed. Great for a kid. And then obviously you just pull up and push it in. Well, you kind of push down on the seat part and then it'll go back into place. The dining table also turns into a bed. There is a little latch underneath, or I don't know what exactly to call that, but you just turn it into this kind of open position, and then you have to push down on the table. You have to push down fairly hard, put some pressure on it, but please be careful not to break it. And then obviously the cushions, they move out and into place on both sides, and this turns into a bed as well. So there's the dining table bed. In the cupboard across from the dining table, there are extra sheets, blankets. These contain sheets. There's some sheets here. I try to have all the bedding that you might need for every bed in here. These are just some extra pillows that don't have pillowcases on them. If you feel like you might need a couple extra. We have a power strip here. We know when you're traveling with families, everybody's always looking for somewhere to plug in. You can charge from the power strips like this one when you are plugged in to power at a campground, or there's USB ports and things like that, just sort of like a regular vehicle that can be plugged into as well. This is the ladder for the crow's nest. You just pop it out of there and it goes into these hooks right up front. And then you can use that to, climb into the crow's nest. Next area is the kitchen, and let's start with the refrigerator. So when you start your trip, you'll just want to make sure that this button is in the depressed position. So push it and make sure that the light for auto comes on. That means that the refrigerator will use whatever the best source for power is. So when you're not plugged in, it's going to be using a battery power. And when you are plugged in, it will use electrical power. So obviously it's best when it's plugged in, so you're not having to use the battery. But again, when you're traveling, you're not draining that battery. This is obviously the sink area. We have a dish rack in there that you can remove. We try to keep this very well stocked. We have lots of dishes, cups, coffee mugs, wine glasses, some disposable plates, things like that, all here in the camper. There are grocery bags, storage bags, foil, plastic wrap baggies, things like that. But of course, you'll always want to check and fill in with whatever you need. The microwave is best to be used when you are on power, like at a campground. It works the best. You won't have great use of it with the generator or just on battery. It just isn't enough power for those. There are knives and cutting boards here. This is the cooktop. To use the cooktop, you're just gonna lift up and then flip over the kind of grease splatter thing towards the back. And then it just works like a regular stove cooktop once you have the gas on. So you have to make sure that's done. We do use the oven occasionally to heat things up. It is pretty consistent heat, I would say. Underneath there's some cleaning supplies and then a supply of pots and pans. Sorry, it's dark in there. There are utensils and a kind of a junk drawer with various bits and bobs. And then there are kitchen towels, hot pads, things like that. And there are kitchen towels hanging there. Up above the kitchen, we have a Keurig, which you can plug in and use when you're on power. There's some pods for that. There's some spices, things like that. So help yourself to anything you find. And we do have some pet supplies up here. Feel free to borrow those while you're using the camper. Some tie outs, leashes, things like that. We'll do a quick tour of the bathroom area. To the left is the toilet and sink. To the right is the shower. And you'll see lots of things in the camper are multi-use. When we're not using the shower, I use it to store cleaning supplies. There's a broom in here, a Swiffer, there's some laundry supplies, other cleaning supplies, things like that. Feel free to use those while you're traveling in the camper. We do have shampoo, conditioner, and body wash here in the camper. Those stay. The shower works like any other shower with hot and cold. Knobs, obviously, you do have to make sure that the pump is on and that the gas hot water heater is on if you want to take a hot shower. There is a little open and close valve here. You can push that in and out to save water while you're showering. So if you want to turn that off while you're lathering up your hair, you can. No water will come out, and then turn it back on. That'll keep the water warm, but it just won't be running constantly. Close that. The nice thing about this shower area is that you can turn it into a big shower. So I'm going to turn the light on in here so you guys can see. So the showers here, back against that door was the main living area. If you just push this shut, it will hook into a little latch at the top and close that off. And then back here in front of the master bedroom, there's a little snap that helps you close this kind of accordion partition. And that makes this whole bathroom area much larger so that you have room to shower and bathe and hang up a towel and get dressed with a little bit of privacy and a little bit more room. So that's how that works. There's clean towels in here. There are various sunscreens and insect repellent, a few general first aid things. Please help yourself to anything that you find when you rent the camper. That is hand soap. There are some feminine hygiene supplies and things like that under there. The one thing that we ask, of course, is that only toilet paper goes into the toilet. You are on a holding tank. This isn't like regular plumbing, and so that needs to be respected. The toilet. It's important with the toilet that you make sure the pump is on, and then I'm going to show you what needs to happen with the toilet. This is the main bedroom area. Pretty self-explanatory. There's storage on either side, and there is a TV. The remote for that is in the drawer on the right-hand side as you're looking at the bed. Back here is where you control the air conditioning and the heat, and there's a light switch there and a light switch on the other side as you come in. They're to your left and right. This works just like a regular furnace. I'm not plugged in right now, but you will just choose your mode, either heat or cool, just like you would at home. That's heat, or I'm sorry, that's cool right there. You'll set your temperature. When it hits that temperature, obviously, it'll kick off just like it does at home. Same with the heat. The furnace, that'll heat up until it hits that point, and then it will turn off. So it works just like your unit at your house. When not in use, please turn it off, because if you run the generator, we don't want any of the appliances on when the generator is turned on. We want them to start from the off position. As I mentioned before, when you get ready to leave for the next leg of your trip, you want to make sure of a few things in the camper. You want to make sure that you have unhooked all of the sewer connections. You want to make sure that you have closed all of the vents on the roof. Let's look at those. You want to make sure that you've closed all of the vents on the roof. Make sure that those are all shut tightly. Like if you've had them open for ventilation while you were parked, that's fine, but they need to be in the closed position before you get ready to leave. Make sure that you turn the battery right down there at the floor on before you leave, so that you have that screen right there available to you while you are driving. Make sure that the interior lights are off, there's switches throughout, and make sure that any of the other appliances are off, that you have secured all of the hatches outside, that all of the storage areas are closed up, and you're ready to go. We hope you have a great time in the RV. If it's your first time being in a rig like this, it can be a little bit of an adventure. But it's super fun, and we hope you enjoy your time.